I'm 3M, and I never imagined my life could collapse in a single moment. But it did. Last December, I walked in on my wife, 3F, cheating on me with my stepdaughter's father, a man I've spent years keeping away from our home. The shock, the betrayal, it all hit me like a punch to the gut. My mind couldn't process it at first. I just froze. Even before that moment, my marriage had been exhausting. I handled nearly everything: cleaning the house, cooking, taking care of her daughter, managing the yard, feeding and walking our pets. Some days, I worked part-time at the law firm she worked at, just to make ends meet. My routine began at 6 a.m. and often ended after 2 a.m. Some nights I barely slept, juggling chores and work. I thought I was building a life together, but she was playing a game I didn't even know existed. When I caught her texting him, or planning to meet other men, she blamed me. She said it was my fault for being too controlling or not paying enough attention. She even used guilt and threats to force intimacy, despite my protests. I tried to forgive her, thinking we could work through it, but the cycle repeated over and over. Each time I believed she'd changed, she would lie, cheat, and manipulate again. Then came the pregnancy. At first, I thought it could be a fresh start, but soon I realized something was off. I asked for a DNA test, wanting clarity. Instead, she got an abortion immediately, and blamed me for pushing her into it. That was the breaking point for me. I realized I was trapped in a toxic, manipulative relationship, where I had no control, no respect, and no future. I left last month. I quit my job to escape that environment, hoping to start over, but since then, life has been a nightmare. My family has been my only support system, yet I've lost nearly everything: my home, my car, half of my family, my job, and even my stepdaughter. I wake up each day feeling empty and broken, struggling just to feed myself or leave my bed. Every memory feels tainted. Every trust I gave her was abused. Even our dating period had apparently been a setup for betrayal. I'm left to pick up the pieces of my life, with little guidance, no financial support, and my mental health in shambles. I know I need to take baby steps, get a new job, rebuild my routine, learn to leave the house without panic attacks, but every task feels monumental. Severe depression and anxiety make public interactions agonizing. Just meeting a friend or going to a store can leave me a sobbing mess. I feel completely alone in this, carrying the weight of her betrayal and all the losses it caused. And yet, deep down, I know I need to survive. I need to reclaim my life, my independence, and my dignity. A few weeks after leaving, I got word that my ex-wife was planning to bring the affair partner to our divorce hearing. Just imagining them showing up together made my stomach turn. I reached out to a few close friends for advice. Some said I should ignore them. Others insisted on coming to court for support. I knew I couldn't face this alone. My mental state was fragile, but I had to find a way to stay composed. The day of the hearing finally arrived. I stepped into the courthouse with a forced calm, though my heart was pounding. The memory of catching her with him still flashed in my mind every few seconds. A reminder of how badly I'd been betrayed. I was determined not to let her see me falter. She walked in, composed and smiling, and for a brief second I felt a pang of anger. This woman, who I once loved deeply, had destroyed my life, my job, my car, my home, my relationship with my stepdaughter, and my mental stability. And yet, she acted as if nothing had happened. She didn't even glance at me. She focused on her paperwork, and the AP wasn't even there. Turns out, he had gotten another woman pregnant and couldn't attend. That was a small, ironic relief. Throughout the hearing, I remained composed, answering the judge politely but firmly. I refused to engage in any of her manipulations or emotional tactics. Every time she tried to twist the story, or make me out to be the villain, I stayed silent and let the facts speak for themselves. I knew I had to be strategic. Losing my composure could cost me everything I had left. After the hearing, I left the courthouse and went straight to the gym. I needed to release the tension, the rage, the hurt. I lifted heavier than ever, ran further, and pushed myself until I felt a tiny flicker of control return. For the first time in months, I felt empowered. She had taken so much from me, but I was still standing, still breathing, still fighting. Once home, I checked my mail and noticed a note mixed in. The affair partner hadn't been at the hearing because he was involved with another woman, which only reinforced my sense of betrayal and disbelief at how careless and reckless these people were. My ex-wife had manipulated everyone around her, lied about everything, and yet I was the one who had to rebuild. That night, I allowed myself a moment of quiet reflection. I cried, yes, but it wasn't out of defeat. It was the release of months of pain and abuse. I reminded myself that I was alive, that I had survived, and that her control over my life was finally over. She might have taken a lot, but she hadn't taken my future. I would rebuild, one day at a time. Even now, I feel the weight of her betrayal every day, but I know I'm stronger than I was. I'm starting to focus on my own goals, my own healing, and my own life, free from the manipulation and abuse that had held me captive for so long. The journey isn't over, but I finally feel like I'm moving forward, and that's the first step toward reclaiming everything she tried to destroy. A few days after the hearing, I started receiving constant messages from my ex-wife. She alternated between pleading, guilt-tripping, and outright threats. At first, I ignored them, but the sheer persistence was exhausting. She tried every trick in the book, reminding me of all the bad things I had done for her, claiming I was being cruel for not forgiving her, and even suggesting that she'd go to court again to demand more spousal support. I felt a mix of anger, sadness, and disbelief. How could someone be so entitled, so manipulative, and so completely disconnected from reality? Then she called. I debated ignoring it, but something told me I had to confront her directly once and for all. She started with a calm, almost sweet tone, explaining that she and the affair partner were struggling and that I should think about being the bigger person. She tried to play on my sense of empathy, reminding me of the money I had already spent supporting her, and implying that I owed her even more. My blood boiled. The irony of her asking for anything after everything she had done wasn't lost on me. I told her firmly that I had no intention of giving her another cent. I reminded her that the alimony I'd already paid was generous, considering her actions, and that I would no longer allow myself to be manipulated. Her voice broke, she started crying, and she tried to twist the conversation into making me feel guilty. I stayed calm, refusing to fall for it. This time, I wasn't the one being walked over. A week later, she went through with her threat and filed for higher alimony, likely hoping to intimidate me into compliance. But I was ready. I contacted my lawyer and explained that I would fight her, using all the evidence I had gathered over the past months, texts, witnesses, and friends who had seen her manipulate me. I even reached out to a few cousins who had witnessed my mistreatment growing up. They were willing to testify on my behalf, supporting my case that I had been wronged and that her claims were false. The legal preparation was intense, but I felt empowered. For the first time, I realized that I could fight back and win. When the day of the hearing came, I walked in with confidence. My ex-wife tried her usual tactics, pleading, crying, and accusing, but this time, I had proof, witnesses, and the truth on my side. The judge reviewed everything, and in a turn of events I couldn't believe, the court denied her request for additional alimony. I felt a surge of vindication. Finally, justice, at least in this small sense, had been served. After the hearing, I walked out feeling lighter, stronger, and more in control than I had in months. I drove home, ready to treat myself to a night of peace and comfort, only to find my family waiting outside my house. They blocked my door, expecting me to cave and give them money. I could see my father scolding me, my mother begging, and even the affair partner standing there smugly. I didn't flinch. I stood my ground, told them to leave, and prepared to call the police if they didn't. They tried yelling, manipulating, and shamming me, but nothing worked. I had finally reached a point where their tactics didn't affect me. After what felt like an eternity, they left, muttering threats, but I was unbothered. I realized that I had survived abuse, betrayal, and manipulation, and nothing they could do now would shake me. I locked the door, took a deep breath, and finally allowed myself to feel free. The road ahead wasn't going to be easy, but for the first time in over a year, I felt like I had control over my life. I had survived the worst of it, and now I could rebuild everything they tried to destroy. This story isn't just about divorce, betrayal, or cheating. It's about surviving, standing up for yourself, and realizing that even when the people closest to you fail you, you can find strength within yourself. I know the journey of healing isn't over, but after everything, I finally feel like I'm reclaiming my life.